Mhm.
All right, good afternoon and welcome to a fun afternoon, but a very calming afternoon. My name is Monica Lindstrom, and I am a member of the board of directors for Arizona Foundation for Women. I want to welcome you and thank you for joining us today in our last of our series in She Talks, which is Healing Through Humanities. So over the past several months, we've had a series of She Talks culminating in today's presentation that is Healing Through Humanities. After going through COVID and all of us have gone through some kind of trauma in our life, we realized that this would be a very interesting and helpful series to present to all of the wonderful people that are joining us today. And this one today is a meditation follow-up and storytelling. And our speakers today are going to be Angel Serpina, you can see her right there, and Anita Fonte. She will be joining us just a little bit later. She's here, she's just off camera right now. So I also want to thank Arizona Humanities, who provided AFW a grant to be able to put on these presentations. Without that grant, we wouldn't have been able to do this. So we are very thankful for that. So today I'm going to give you a little bit of information about Arizona Foundation for Women, because we love to have people involved and to help us out with our mission. And then after that, Angel's going to lead us in a discussion on how attendees in the past have implemented meditation into their lives, and also how you can continue to do that. If you didn't join us with the last meditation presentation, that's okay. We're glad that you're here today because you'll be able to pick up the pointers and some information about starting that in your own life, or maybe continuing down that path if you're a beginner or intermediate or advanced, right? We're always learning. And then after that, Anita will lead us in a discussion of creating the next chapter of your life story. So it's a storytelling and how we can be a storyteller in a multitude of ways, but also heal from that storytelling and heal from sharing our story with others. So let me see. Okay, so She Talks is a series of presentations that we like to give here at AFW to help women in various areas of their life. We focus on the safety, health, and economic empowerment of women. Excuse me, I've been talking all morning, so sometimes I get tongue-tied. So safety, health, and economic empowerment. That's the She in She Talks. And we have a tagline here at AFW that goes along with our mission that we wrap to She. So at AFW, we do research and advocacy and philanthropy for the safety, health, and economic empowerment of Arizona women. And we do focus on Arizona women because we feel that if the Arizona woman is strong and healthy and supported, then the rest of the family will be too, since we all know that women are really the heart of any family and the multiple generations in the family. Now, we love to have live events, and we used to have the live events before COVID, but COVID taught us all that we can do these events online and more people are able to join us. Not only that, but we can record it and put it on our website. So if you visit azfw.org, you will find our past presentations along with this one if you would like to share it with anybody. And we would ask you to go ahead and share these presentations and the presentation today with your loved one, your friends, your family out on Facebook or Instagram. And on our website, you'll see our taglines for and our names for each one of those social media platforms. I talked about our mission. It's advancing the status of Arizona's women through the research, advocacy, and philanthropy for She, safety, health, and economic empowerment. Let's see. You know, when we tell people about our mission, a lot of people want to be involved. Some people have a lot of time, some people don't have as much time, but there is always a place for you at AFW. So you can become one of our volunteers. We always have volunteer opportunities. Just reach out to us. You can become a member of AFW, and the money that you pay to be part of it or to be a member actually goes directly to our grantees and to the organizations that we help. We don't send you any pens or pencils or paper or notebooks, because that takes away from the money that you can give to the grantees so that they can continue to do the good work. And we try to support them in doing that good work for Arizona women. So if you'd like to become a member, please go to our website. Not only you, but if you're thinking about a gift for that person and that just has everything, right? Or maybe they're a young woman or a young man in college and they want to start getting involved in some of these pursuits, this would be a fantastic thing, is to give them a membership so they help people during the holidays and all year round. Because goodness knows, we don't all need another Starbucks cup for Christmas, do we? Although I love Starbucks cups, I'll be the first to admit it. But anyway, it's a wonderful present any time of the year, but especially with the holidays, you can show your love towards that loved one and help others in need. Oh, and of course, it's we're a nonprofit, so you can always take that tax deduction. Okay, that's always a good thing. Also, we have the She Partners program. That's where we collaborate with corporations throughout the Valley. So if your company, your employer has a women's affinity group, or they want to get involved in more women's pursuits, we please contact us, because we would love to partner with you and have you support AFW. We also have She Leads, which is an incredible program that has really just taken off. And it is teaching the future leaders in our community, or women that are already leaders that want to take it to the next level. So please check that out as well. A lot of employers really like that and will send their employees to the program because it is so valuable. So for all the ways to get involved, like I just mentioned, go to azfw.org. I'm sorry my intro is so long, but there is one more thing before I introduce our wonderful speaker, or our first speaker, I should say, because they're both wonderful. We are having the AFW Annual Awards event in February. It's February 24th. It's going to be at the Camelback Inn and Spa over on Lincoln in Scottsdale, Paradise Valley area. And that's where we give out 3 incredible awards to very well-known people. I can't tell you who that is yet. It's a surprise. But if you go to azfw.org, you can purchase a ticket for the event, or a sponsorship, or even just donate. It's an incredible event. It's so fun. And I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, it is a masquerade theme, which is always so fun, right? So anyway, go check that out. All right. Now we have Angel Serpina. She is a Chopra certified primordial sound meditation instructor, excuse me, and Chopra certified Ayurvedic lifestyle teacher. I think I said that right. She's been associated with Chopra Global since 2014 and leads local meditation and wellness seminars, as well as teaches at Chopra Health retreats. Pretty amazing woman right here. Very calm, very helpful. As you can see, she's sitting over there very calmly. So her work is grounded in the modalities of meditation, prayer, yoga, and Ayurvedic principles. She believes that change is possible in an instant when we seek to deeply understand ourselves, and that recognizing our body-mind connection is vital to the healing process. And I know that you've heard that before, but Angel's going to help us through that. So thank you so much for joining us today. So I'll let you take it from here.
Okay, thank you so much, Monica. What a beautiful introduction. Yes, so first of all, if we could just take a moment, I'd like to just have everyone close their eyes so we can take a couple of breaths and just ground ourselves right here and now, and be here so that we can fully absorb all of the communication and everything that we're going to share with each other. So if we could just close our eyes for a moment and just rest your hands gently in your lap. And let's do a series of 3 deep breaths in and release. Let's do another round just like that. Breathe in deeply and release. And one more round, a nice deep breath in through your nostrils. And maybe this time we just exhale through our mouth with a big sigh. Ah. Okay, we are here now. And I'm very eager to hear what your experience has been since we had our first meditation talk. And for any of you that were not part of that first talk, if you have been meditating on your own, or maybe you've just begun this journey, I'd just love to hear what your experience with the practice has been and any questions that you might have around the practice. And a lot of people, when they start out, think that they're not doing it right. And there is no wrong way to meditate. So hopefully we can clear up any questions or maybe misunderstandings that you might have about meditation, in the hopes that you will start this meditation practice and make it a regular thing in your life so that you can begin to experience more peace and better relationships and a whole host of physical benefits as well. So we'll start by just opening it up for questions. If anyone would like to ask a question or share about what it's been like to meditate.
I will go ahead and jump in. And I found that I would kind of start or try to figure out, okay, I need to be in a quiet place. I need to be in a comfy place. And I would sit there and then my mind wouldn't stop, right? I'm thinking about, oh, I need to do this. I need to do this. And I'm sure that's a very common problem. But I found I was concentrating more on not thinking about those other things than concentrating on something else. So maybe I know that at the first presentation, you gave us some pointers on how to start. Could you maybe go over those again?
Sure. Were you doing a mantra meditation, or what type of meditation were you practicing?
Well, I was trying to think about and say over and over, I'm going to be calm. I'm enjoying this. I want it to be quiet, right? It was that kind of saying that to myself over and over, but it wasn't working.
Okay, here's one little tip. So the reason that we choose Sanskrit mantras, or a mantra that doesn't have any particular meaning attached to it, is because as soon as we give ourselves a sentence like you did, or we say, I want to be calm, our mind immediately goes into thought about that because we've given it an instruction, and that's what our logical mind does. So it's very helpful to either choose a mantra that has no meaning, the Sanskrit mantras have meaning, but because they're not part of our language, they don't typically catapult us into this thinking brain. So you can either use that, or a very simple meditation is breath meditation. So every time any thought comes into your head, whether it be, oh, I want to be peaceful, oh, I'm thinking again, whatever the thought is that comes into your mind, just let that go like a cloud that's just passing by you, and then return to your breath. Return to focusing attention on your breath. And after you do that for a while, you will notice you can get to this place that we refer to as the gap. So we have a thought, and we have a gap between a thought, and then we have another thought. And for most of us, those gaps between the thoughts are teeny tiny, because we're like thought, 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 thought. So the idea of meditation is to create that mindful pause between a thought and a thought. So when you're focusing on your breath, thoughts are going to pop in. They estimate approximately 60,000 thoughts a day. So, I mean, we're we're going to be up against thoughts. There's no getting around that. We're human beings. So what we do is gently redirect our focus back to either the breath or to a mantra. And the more you do it, you will come to this place where you might kind of go somewhere else. And then when you come back, you're like, huh, I was just somewhere else, but I don't know where I was. And that's what we call the gap. So the more you meditate, the longer those gaps will become, and the more frequently you'll experience them, not just in meditation, but also outside of meditation. So we talked last time about Viktor Frankl, who was in the death camps for over 3 years. And he wrote a beautiful book called Man's Search for Meaning. And one of the quotes that I love from that is he says that between impulse and response, there is a space. And in that space is our power to choose our response. And in that power to choose lies our freedom. And so when we think about meditation as a way to consciously create that pause between impulse and response, and when we go into our life after meditation, we do begin to see that we're not as reactive, we're more patient, we're better able to choose our response instead of just flying off with the first reaction that comes to us. Did that help answer your question, Monica?
Yeah, it did. And it made sense because one thing I learned through the years raising children was if you tell them don't do that, what do? They do it, right? They don't hear the don't. They're focusing on what you said. So that does make sense that if I have a talking mantra, I'm going to focus on that instead of just trying to clear my mind. So that does make sense.
Yes.
We have some new people that have joined us, and I thought it could be helpful if maybe you could give us maybe a 5-minute refresher as to how to get started in this, because we talked about the breathing and talked about the thought and the gap. Can you go back to the beginning, like I was a second grader, right? And you were explaining how to start the meditation process, both mentally and physically, so the people that joined us, they can learn that so that they can understand what we're talking about today. And then it also just gives the rest of us a reminder.
Sure. And a nice little boost up for the rest of the day.
Yep.
So I will teach you as I teach it at Chopra, but just know that there's over 100 different types of meditation out there. And the important thing is that you find something that resonates with you, something that you're going to continue to do. Because if you learn a meditation practice that doesn't sync with you, then chances are you're not going to continue practicing it. And that's the goal. We would love to see everybody meditating at least 5 minutes a day. So we begin by finding a place either in our home or in our workspace, even in your car. If you're in a parking lot and you have 10 minutes, you want to find a quiet space where you are free from distractions. And if you live with other people, it's always a great idea to just let them know, I'm going to meditate for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, please, don't interrupt me. And I found that that works really well in families, because in my family with 3 children and my husband and the dog, we've always got all kinds of things going on. So if they know that I'm going to my meditation room, they know, don't interrupt. So that is the first thing. And well, actually, to back up, I would say the first thing is the desire, the desire to have more peace in your life. Because why do we meditate? It's not just something we do because it sounds chic, like yoga, meditation, and all of that. It's because we're really seeking to have more peace in our life And that peace we carry out into the world. And I believe that's the way that we will heal the world as we're healing ourselves. So you find the quiet place and then start experimenting. Today, I'm going to teach you a mantra meditation, and this is what we teach at the Chopra Center. And the mantra that I like to use is Sat Nam, and it's spelled SATNAM. And that's a Sanskrit word that means my true essence. And I believe that our true essence is unbounded joy, and it is peace, and it is love. So when we mindfully and regularly connect with our deepest part of ourselves, we're going to start mining more of that gold that we can share with the world. So we'll find this place, and I recommend that if it's comfortable for you, close your eyes and then take a few deep calming breaths just to bring yourself right into this present moment. All of your thoughts and your worries and your to-do lists, leave those outside the door just for this 5 minutes that we're going to take for ourselves. So we'll take a few deep breaths, breathing in deeply and breathing out. Another deep breath just like that, in through the nose and out through the mouth. And now we like to begin with what we call the 4 soul questions. And so this helps to just get us into a place where we're going to begin to have awareness about what's going on internally. So the first soul question we ask is, who am I? Who am I? And just know that there is no right or wrong answer to this question. We simply ask the question, and whatever comes up, we want to observe that without any judgment. Who am I? The second soul question is, what do I truly want? What is the deepest desire of my heart? Again, just allowing anything to come up, no judgment, no expectations. What do I really, truly want? The third soul question is, what am I grateful for? What am I grateful for? And finally, the fourth soul question is, how can I help? How can I serve? And this is where we're going out beyond ourselves, and we're no longer asking what's in it for me, but how can I help others? How can I serve? What is my unique purpose and expression in this life? Again, no judgment attached to whatever comes up. Just allow it to arise, observe it, and let it go. And now we will begin our meditation with the mantra Sat Nam. And just silently, gently repeat this mantra in your head. And it's really more like listening to it rather than saying it. And every time a thought pops up, just gently let that thought go and return to the mantra Sat Nam. Sat Nam. Continue silently repeating the mantra, and I'll watch the time. and let you know when you can release the mantra. Sat Nam. Again, if any thoughts pop into your head, just gently release those thoughts and return to the mantra, Sat Nam. And now you can gently release the mantra and slowly open your eyes. Maybe stretch a little bit and just bring yourself back into the present moment. How did that feel?
That was great. That was just very calming. And thank you for putting or taking us through that, right? So that we could understand again. And just a reminder that even a couple minutes can help. And I want to ask you this one last question before we turn it over to Anita regarding the time. One of our questions was, is it normal to use a timer when you're going through this practice? She said that when she uses a timer, she finds that she's paying more attention to how much time she has. So is that possibly a good technique to use, or is it too much pressure?
I like using a timer and I recommend it because for me, if I don't have a timer set, then I'm constantly worrying that I'm going to be late for my next thing. So I set a timer on my phone. I have chimes and it's very low, but it's enough that I will hear it when it goes off. So I set it for 20 minutes and then I can fully submerge in meditation and I don't have to worry.
That's a great idea. We should all do that with all projects, right? We're only going to clean the house for 20 minutes and after that, we're done.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Angel. That was wonderful. We appreciate it. And you'll be able to find her information on our website, azfw.org, and her previous presentation, which taught us more about meditation, how to start it, how to get through it without getting that anxious feeling, right? And feeling like me, where I was thinking about what I was saying to myself.
Right.
So please go back and check that out. Once again, thank you, Angel.
Thank you,
Now,
Monica.
we're going to go ahead and have Anita Fonte talk to us about storytelling. Now, she is an incredible woman. And if we could all only be so accomplished, right? She has been a Tucson resident since 1971 when she began her career in community development. Since that time, she's developed her own consulting business, Community Renaissance, started in 2003. After working for various national and statewide organizations, which include Arizona Community Foundation, the Kettering Foundation, U of A Colleges of Agriculture, Cooperative Education and Education, U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. I could probably keep going. She has acquired community leadership certifications from JFK School of Government at Harvard and Neighborhood Reinvestment Neighbor Works. She also holds a BA in English Lit and Masters of Adult Education, Northern Illinois University, and a PhD in education and rhetoric from U of A. Her dissertation, Public Stories and Public Dialogue, is available through the U of A library. She is also a writer of nonfiction, fiction, and poetry. So in other words, what doesn't this woman do?
I don't clean my house very often.
That's funny. Neither do I. All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. And you're going to talk to us about storytelling, right?
Yep. That's
All right.
exactly.
Why don't I go ahead and just let you take it away? You can tell us what that is, how it helps us, how we can get started, and we'll go from there.
Okay, great. Thank you, Monica. And it's been a pleasure to be working with the foundation since I came on as a humanities scholar. And I've learned a lot, including what I'm doing today. I've never done a webinar before, so this is my first. We're going to start actually with a slide looking at a labyrinth. And I want to sort of pick up from what Angel was sharing with us and recognize that, as she said, start wherever you need to start. And I've tried some of the types of meditation that she was practicing or encouraging us to practice, and I went along with her today as well. But I found for me in my life, movement meditation is what works for me the best. And this is a slide of a very, very ancient movement meditation. It goes back over 3,000 years. It's a labyrinth. And you may be familiar with labyrinths in your community. We have several here in Tucson. I'm in Tucson. And sometimes the churches have them. We have a park that has a labyrinth, and you can make your own labyrinth if you have a big enough space to do it. It's a walking in and walking out. Walking in usually signifies birth, and the center signifies spiritual energy. And you walk in and out and back and forth. It's not linear. That's the important thing about a labyrinth. And that's also very similar, as we're going to talk today about my presentation. It sort of goes in and out as well. Another in and out example can be a zigzag. We experienced that at the Japanese garden that we visited last month as part of our face-to-face experience with She Talks. There was a bridge and it was shaped like a zigzag. And the guide explained to us that it's designed that way so that the walker will change perspectives as they go through the garden. And it increases a sense of awareness about the impermanence of life. And it also at the same time expands our mind because we're using our left and right side of the brain. So again, thinking about our stories and our experiences through movement meditation can be that in and out, nonlinear, or it could be a zigzag as well. There's other kinds of movement meditations, such as dance. So when we think about dance, we might think about ballet, the Nutcracker Suite's coming up soon with Christmas holidays. That's definitely telling a story. Of course, the music is telling a story as well. Here's an example of another cultural expression of dance and storytelling. This is Polynesian hula dancing. This is an example again of how you can combine movement with storytelling, which again is a cross-cultural experience as well. We can talk about the next slide and the reference to what's in our resource guide. Oh, this slide is out of order. Oops. There's actually this slide, right? I'm sorry, this slide right here, types of storytelling, different cultures that this resource is telling about Choctaw storytelling, African storytelling, and Chinese storytelling. Our resource guide will be sent out to all of our participants, and you can look at this and other resources for more learning about these topics. In our family, another way of sharing storytelling is through a family Seder, where we sit and tell the story of the Haggadah, the story of Exodus, and we eat. Valora, in last month's webinar, talked about making piki bread and how the making of piki bread, Hopi cornmeal bread, with her mother and her sisters was a form of healing, as well as a form of storytelling. And of course, when you're baking, you're also moving around as well. So that's another way of experiencing storytelling. In our culture that we're most familiar with, it's the Western tradition, which is based on Aristotle's way of explaining drama, which was in 3 acts, the beginning, the middle, and the end. So we're familiar with 3 acts. Also in his epic poetry and poetry that came out of the early Greeks, you have beginning, middles, and endings. We have quite a bit of that in our literature of Western tradition, in our novels. Sometimes longer poems have bigger beginning, middles, and endings. And certainly in our stories that we might share with our children, bedtime stories, which is how I experienced the first stories. I also experienced some recitations from my grandmother on the front porch, and she was from Indiana. And 100 years ago, they entertained themselves not with videos and gaming, but reciting stories. So recitations and poetry and storytelling, bedtime stories are all sort of a precursor to what we've become familiar with in terms of beginning, middles, and endings to our stories. Another form is movies. And I grew up in the 50s, and so we were just getting used to seeing really spectacular movies at certain times of the year. And one of those was Wizard of Oz. So now the next slide, sorry. This is a reference to the original Oz. So the original story of Oz was written in the 1900s, and there were actually 14 different books that were created by Frank Baum. And there was also a vaudeville musical that predated what we've become familiar with, which is the 1939 movie of The Wizard of Oz. There we are, The Wizard of Oz. This is the metaphor we're going to be using throughout this presentation this afternoon, which is a movie we're all familiar with. We can look at this poster, and this saying 75 years. So we're 1939, we're up a little bit more than that now, but there's the yellow brick road. There's Dorothy. She's in her red slippers there. Can we see Toto? I don't even know if we can see Toto in the poster, but Toto's with them. And of course we have the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion. And we know that at the beginning of this story, she's not here, she's in Kansas, and it's black and white. It's not in color, but she has her aunt and she has her uncle, and she has 3 farmhands that are sort of telling us a little bit about what's going to come in the middle of the story. We also have Miss Gulch, who tells us what's going to come in the middle of the story. And we have her Dorothy going in this beginning section to a circus man kind of caravan guy who, tells fortunes and things like that. And she sings Over the Rainbow, which is her way of expressing that she wants more in life than what she's experiencing in Kansas. And boy, is she going to get more in life, as we know coming next. So we're going to take a little moment, pause here. I guess we could take a breath and have a little bit of foreshadowing of where we're going to go in the middle part of the story, which is the house comes through the tornado, crashes down, kills the Wicked Witch of the East, and she finds herself inheriting some very special slippers And she finds herself confronted with this new land of the Munchkin land, the wonderful, kind Glinda Witch from the north, and the Yellow Brick Road. So we can go to the Yellow Brick Road now. So this particular slide is showing just quickly, you can go to this reference too about how the Yellow Brick Road could be used for a strategy in your life. Wow, a yellow brick road can signify the path that you're on. Each of those little bricks can signify an action step, which we're going to be looking at in another diagram in a few minutes. The song of Over the Rainbow is our goal. That's where we're headed to. We're going to some goal way out there. That's our mission. That's our purpose in life. That's our true self, like Angel was talking about. That's our true self. That's where we're going. But first, we have to sort of encounter the fact that this yellow brick road, again, thinking about the poster and what we're going to see in this clip, is not linear. We can go to the clip now.
Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road.
Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow, 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 follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick, follow the yellow brick, follow the yellow brick road. You're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. You'll find he is a wizard who is, if ever is there was.
So we're off. We're off on the yellow brick road now. And we are wearing our red slippers as we go along. Now, when Dorothy lands in the middle of this story, she's thinking, because this is what Glinda the Good Witch has told her, that these red slippers, we can have the next slide, are magic of some type. And she's thinking that, you know, that's how she's going to get home. That's sort of what Glinda the Good Witch has suggested. And so she's on her path. But she's not alone. Right there in the slide, we see that Toto's with her. So she's got her fur baby with her. She's on her way with Toto. And she's going to find three characters that I think are also important in our story. She's going to find the Scarecrow, who represents brains. She's going to find the Tin Man, who represents heart. And she's going to find the Lion, who represents courage. So all of three of them have challenges, including her with her own challenges. They encounter the poppy field where the Wicked Witch of the West is after her, and she tries to put her to sleep, tries to lull her to sleep. And Dorothy almost succumbs, but she doesn't. She's saved by her super friends who take her to Oz, and she goes to Oz and she discovers that she needs a little makeover. Before she sees the wizard. They get their makeovers, they go to see the wizard, and lo and behold, behind the curtain is a man who's not quite ready to grant them their wish. They have more challenges ahead. And so challenges are ahead of her as well, just like challenges are ahead of us. And the next slide shows the reference we're going to be using comes from Donna Lickow. She's a coach, a life coach, particularly for women. And she has an online toolkit that I recommend. It's in our resource guide, the Driven Leadership Toolkit. We can go to the next slide. So this is our story arc. This is our story arc or our story map. And you will see in this visual from Donna Lickow that there is a beginning, there is a middle where the arc, you know, the arc is curved and it's at the high point, and then there's an ending. So this follows the Western tradition in terms of sort of laying it out. But as we know in life, it's more like a zigzag. It's more like a labyrinth. It we go in and we go out, we go up and we go down, we go back and we go forth. So let's take a look at the different steps that we have here, though, in this story arc or story map. It starts with the same soul question that Angel just presented to us. Who am I? So in meditation, we start with that question. And in our story, we start with that question. Who am I? And it asks us to list some characteristics about ourselves. And I suggest we think about our brains and our heart and our courage. that we are engaged in this path with those 3 elements right away. The next step is looking at call to action. That's an incident that is calling us or challenging us. And this webinar series was created because of the pandemic and all of the challenges that we experienced through the pandemic, and I dare say, are still experiencing. We have 2 other viruses that we're dealing with this winter, fall. Each of us is dealing with these things individually. We're each very unique in how we responded to the pandemic, how we're responding to the call to actions in our lives now. But we did have this shared experience, which brought us together. And so to think about what are some of the things that we went through with that call to action? There were some very serious ones. In our family, we had a relative, my brother-in-law, who was in the hospital for 3 months. And it was very serious. He was on ECMO, and with heart-lung machine, as well as a ventilator for 3 months. So that was our experience. Other people didn't, thank God, have that kind of experience, but we all experienced something. Recently in the Wall Street Journal, it's sort of funny that women, as we were getting ready to return to the office, if we needed to do that after being on Zoom and being in our jammies or comfort clothes and our slippers or our big socks, women put their feet into their shoes, not unlike Dorothy slipping into her red slippers, and found out their feet didn't fit anymore. Either their size had changed in length and or in width, number one. The second change was that they didn't like the way, if they could slip their foot in their slipper, they didn't like the way they felt. It felt constrained. So the retail industry has responded and created more flats, more fashion flats. That's what the Wall Street Journal article was all about. And you can see some of our celebrities, Jennifer Lawrence recently was, seen out wearing her fashion flats because we made some unintentional challenges and choices. Our body changed as part of this endemic. So that was one of the things that we had to work through. That's an obstacle that we had to work through. How are we going to dress for work again? What kind of shoes are we going to wear? And I currently am still masking up when I go out. I have a health situation, and so I mask up when I go out. Those are things I think about every day. There are actions that we take because of the inciting incident of the day or of this endemic, the obstacles that we faced. What are those actions? Well, one of them is what we're doing right now. You've tuned into the webinar. That's an action step. Think about the yellow brick road. You took one of your steps on that brick. You turned into the webinar. And again, those action steps aren't going to be linear, probably. They're going to be more like the labyrinth or more like a zigzag. Moving up the arc, the high point of the arc is really asking us to look at our values and our superpowers. What are the things that we believe in? Again, going back to Angel's presentation, what's her true self? What are the values that we hold dear? What's our mission? And some of our superpowers are our skills, hobbies. In Valora's presentation last month, she talked about in women experiencing deep trauma, personal traumas, hobbies were very, very important for their healing process. So it could be baking, it could be knitting or crocheting, it could be, for me, I've discovered birding. And so what is it that hobbies give us this feeling of safety and also stretch us and open us up? Who are our super friends? Who are the people going along the yellow brick road with us in life? Who, even when we have a poppy field, sort of lulling us to give up or quit or turn around and go back, they carry us through. Who are our super friends in life? And then where are our feelings in all of this process of moving through this story? What are the feelings? Fear, anger, maybe resentment, maybe hope, maybe joy as we realize we're coming closer and closer to the goals that we've set for ourselves. And then that's the quote ending of this particular story arc, reaching our goal, whatever goal that it is that we have for that day. We can go to the next slide. We all have more stories to tell. Our goals for the day that we're living or the month that we're living in. We're coming up on a big month of December for a lot of people, a lot of holidays. We have lots of stories to tell. Some of them are helpful and hopeful, and some of them are sad. This particular book, The Story You Need to Tell, is not in the resource guide because I haven't finished reading it, but I have started to read it. And I did come to go to Phoenix in particular to go to Changing Hands bookstore to buy this book by Sandra Marinella. I found her during the endemic on social media. She is a cancer survivor, and I came to her through a shared experience of that as well. She writes about the stories we need to tell, and I really encourage you to take a look at the book. In the first few pages that I have read, I've already been inspired to share some of the thoughts that she has for finding your own voice. So you may think, oh, I'm not a storyteller. Well, of course we are. We're all telling stories. It's simple, but it's also maybe a challenge. So how do we do it? We find a safe space. We take a breath. We take that breath. We find a safe space where we can tell, write, sing, or dance our story, or paint our story. Maybe we're a visual storyteller. Maybe we're a movie maker. So we're going to tell it in a different kind of way. Think about the rules that someone maybe has taught you about telling a story, and then erase them. Get rid of them. Create your own rules. Make up your own rules. Turn those contemporary rules of storytelling that somebody gave you and, make them your own. Find a partner maybe to tell your stories with or share your stories with, and find a way to practice them in a kind of combination. Maybe movement meditation works for you like it does for me, or you can tell your stories. You can see I'm using my hands. I'm part Italian. You can tell your story with some rhythm and some spacing and slowing it down, which is hard for me to do. Slow it down so you can reflect upon what the story is that you're telling. So forgetting the rules is important. I want to take a look at the next reference, which is a reference to taking the story of Oz. This is Gregory Maguire's take on Oz called Wicked. You may have heard of this. It's become a musical, but it was first a book. And this is the book. And I'm going to move quickly through it so we can experience the next slide a little bit. But his book actually talks about the Wicked Witch of the West and her story with the Witch of the North, which in his book is Galinda. So we can go to the next slide. So we're back to Dorothy's Slippers. So thinking about the story arc and thinking about Dorothy and the ending of her story, is there anybody else who wondered at the end of the movie when she woke up back in black and white world with her family around her and her friends, what was she going to do differently? She learned that those red slippers were not the magic. She had the magic all the time. The story arc was the arc that she was living. She found her way through the yellow brick road, and she found out she had the power within her all the time. She had her own superpowers. What are your superpowers? How can you express them? Well, in one way that she discovered them, she discovered she was never alone. She had Toto from the beginning, and she had her friends throughout. Are there other ways that we can reach out and find other superpowers with whom we can share a story? Yes, there are. Next slide. Through StoryCorps and through the Woman Storytelling Salon. These are two references. StoryCorps has been around pre-COVID. The Women's Storytelling Salon came during COVID. So women decided back east that they needed a way for women to come together and share their story online. And that resource is in your resource guide as well as StoryCorps. Next slide. We're going to listen to a very short clip here to wind up our storytelling presentation and to take us to new heights by defying gravity.
There's a chance to fly, and if I'm flying solo, at least 'cause I'm flying free. To those who ground me, take a message back from me. Tell them how I am defying gravity. I'm flying high, defying gravity, and soon I'll match them in renown. Nobody in all of Oz, no wizard that there is or was, is ever gonna bring me down.
So how do you beat that? I don't know. Wow. We are all defying gravity. We got through an incredible endemic experience. We're living our lives. We're strong. We're women. And this is our story. Next slide. It's really a never-ending story. The labyrinth brings us back into the center where our higher power is. If we can go to the next slide. It brings us back out. We are not alone. We are here for each other. Thank you so much for joining me today in this little experience. And if there are any questions, if there are any time left, I'd be glad to answer or chat with anyone.
All right. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. And I love Idina Menzel. Man, her voice is just so powerful, and her facial expressions. I got chills just watching that little scene right there and thinking about what you told us. We're running out of time, but I just wanted to ask a quick question. I think when people hear storytelling, they automatically hear writing or journaling. And if I understood you correctly, that's just one medium we can use, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, dance, the movement at the very beginning. I reference visual. I mean, what we saw right now, it's telling a story. How did we experience it? Visually. And so there's visual storytelling. Baking is a storytelling experience. You know, the recipe is part of the story, right?
Yeah.
And we've all experienced Thanksgiving in some form or another. That was part of a shared story that we went through as well. So eating is definitely a shared experience and a story.
Who doesn't like eating, right?
Yeah.
And I find I've never thought of myself as a storyteller, right? But after hearing your presentation, I thought, you know what? Actually, every time a couple of my girlfriends and I get together, whether it's over coffee or a martini or something, we're telling stories.
Absolutely.
And I call it my therapy, because you have those other women that you can learn from, and they can, give you comments, helpful or not. But it feels so good to get that information out, and it's a way to heal.
Absolutely. Story is a way that we make order and meaning out of our lives.
Yes.
So
And
when you're meeting with your girlfriends, that's exactly what you're doing.
And we can pass that down through our family, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Anita. We appreciate that. And we're running out of time, so I need to go over some last things. First, we want to thank again our sponsor, Arizona Humanities. Because of the grant that was given to AFW, we were able to put on a series of Healing Through Humanities with these presentations. So please go to azfw.org to see those past presentations, and please share them on social media or even during your storytelling. Go ahead and tell your loved ones how they can watch these presentations, because they've just been so helpful and they just open your mind. Thank you, Angel and Anita, for sharing your expertise with us and your life with us and helping us grow in a different way and to understand things. We seriously appreciate it. So everyone, please do us a favor. You should get a link for a survey in your email, along with all the resources that our wonderful speakers were talking about. Please take a moment to just fill that out. It helps us understand how we can bring things to you and make your life more meaningful as well through Arizona Foundation for Women. Remember that go to our website if you want to volunteer, if you want to be a member or give a gift of membership, or if you want to partner with us through our She Partners program. Also take a look at our She Leads program, which is an incredible education opportunity that we do provide. And understand that AFW's mission is to move the scales in a positive way for the safety, health, and economic empowerment of women here in Arizona through research, advocacy, and philanthropy. That's what everything we do is for. And we take all those resources, turn it into money, and we give them to our grantees. And you can go to our website and see our grantees and all the wonderful work that they're doing. Lastly, we hope to see all of you at our Arizona Foundation for Women soiree, and that is going to be February 24th. It's our annual awards event. It is so fun. It's a little fancy. You get to wear a mask. That's the theme this year. And so go to our website, buy a ticket. We have room for sponsors, or you can just donate. Again, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, Anita. Thank you, Angel. We appreciate it. And I hope that you have a wonderful day.